The sun over Dust Creek town burned like fire that day, pouring its judgment on the dusty main street where half the town had gathered to watch a spectacle of shame. Tied to the old oak post in the center square stood a young woman, her wrists bound tight with rough rope, her face streaked with dust and tears. Her dress was torn, her hair tangled from the hands that dragged her there. A wooden sign hung around her neck, "Thief." The crowd whispered, pointed, spat. The sheriff leaned on his rail, chewing tobacco, watching without care. "Please, let me go," the girl whispered, voice trembling like the wind that carried her plea nowhere. No one listened. They said she stole bread, that she was a runaway from the rail camps, that she lied her way through good men's hearts. But none of them knew her story. None except one man, a tall cowboy leaning against his horse near the saloon. Had shadowing eyes that had seen too much cruelty in his years. Clint Maddox, a drifter. Gun for hire once, now trying to live quiet. To find peace among ghosts he couldn't bury. He'd come to Dust Creek for supplies, not salvation. But something in that girl's voice, something desperate, pure, and wronged, cut through the noise of the world like a cry from his own past. He walked slowly toward the square, boots striking heavy on dry ground. "You ought to stay out of this, stranger," a man warned. Clint didn't even glance. The sheriff straightened, hands on his belt. "Town justice, mister. Girl's a thief. We don't interfere with that." Clint's voice came quiet but sharp as a whip. "Town justice or town cruelty?" The sheriff smirked. "Same thing sometimes." The crowd laughed. Clint's eyes shifted to the girl, her lips cracked, her eyes wild with fear and shame. He saw her fingers bleeding against the rope. Something inside him, the part that remembered a sister taken by raiders, a mother left to starve, lit up like fire. "Untie her," he said. The sheriff's laughter stopped. "You got a death wish, cowboy." Clint didn't answer with words. His revolver answered for him, flashing in the sun like a strike of lightning. One shot blew the rope off the post. The crowd gasped as the girl fell forward into the dust. Clint holstered his gun slow, his voice steady. "Now, she's free." The sheriff's hand hovered over his weapon. But Clint's gaze froze him. "If you're gonna draw, draw. But make peace first." The silence that followed was heavy as Judgment Day. No one moved. The girl looked up, eyes wide in disbelief, dirt streaking her tears. Clint reached a hand down to her. "You okay, miss?" She hesitated, then took it. Her fingers were trembling, small, but strong. Why'd you help me?" she stammered. Clint looked out across the square where townsfolk now whispered behind their hands. "'Cause no one helped me when I needed it," he said softly. They walked away under the stares of the silent crowd, her bare feet leaving prints in the hot dust. Behind them, the sheriff barked something, but no one followed. At the edge of town, Clint lifted her onto his horse. She was light, weak, her wrists raw. "Got a name?" he asked. "Lila," she whispered. "They said I stole bread, but I just took what they owed my brother. He worked for them, died under their watch." Clint nodded slowly. "World don't have much room for justice, Lila. You take what you can and you run when you have to." He gave her his canteen. Watched her drink like someone tasting life again. They rode out toward the canyon, the town shrinking behind them until it was just another scar in the land. "You can drop me anywhere," she said after a while. "You don't owe me." Clint looked at the horizon. Gold light spilling over the rocks. "Maybe not. But I reckon we both got something to find." She frowned. "Find?" "A place where folks stop judging before they listen." He stopped by a small creek and let the horse drink. The sky was bleeding into crimson now. Lila watched the sun fall, her eyes softer, her fear easing into quiet strength. "You think a place like that exists?" she asked. Clint smiled faintly. "If it don't, maybe we'll build it." She looked at him long, as if trying to see what kind of man would risk his Life for a stranger shamed in front of a crowd. There was pain in his eyes, but not hardness. Only the tired courage of someone who'd seen too much and still chose to stand. "You're not like them," she said quietly. "Nah," he muttered. "Maybe that's why I ain't got a home." A breeze whispered through the canyon grass. And for a moment, it felt like the world forgave them both. Days later, Dust Creek would tell stories that the outlaw Clint Maddox broke the town's rope and rode off with a thief girl. That he'd gone mad, that justice would come for him. But no one would find them. Not in the valleys where the wildflowers grew. Not by the river where they camped, laughed, and began to dream again. Clint taught her how to shoot, how to ride faster than fear. How to build a fire without smoke. She taught him how to hope again. Sometimes, at night, she'd whisper the words she said that day, "Please, let me go." And he'd answer, smiling, "Not till you're ready." Because letting go wasn't always freedom. Sometimes, being held safe was. When the world gives you chains, it takes one brave soul to break them. And that day, in the dust of a cruel town, one cowboy did just that. The storm came 3 days after they left Dust Creek. Clint and Lila had found shelter in an old trapper's cabin, half broken and leaning against the wind. Rain hammered the roof like bullets, and thunder rolled across the canyon like drums of judgment. Lila sat near the fire, staring at her hands, the same hands that once clutched rope burns from that square. She still heard the laughter of the crowd, still saw the sheriff's grin in her sleep. "They'll come for us," she whispered. Clint looked up from cleaning his revolver. "They'll try," he said. His calmness wasn't arrogance. It was the stillness of a man who'd already made peace with death. "You shouldn't have helped me," she said. "You ruined your life for a stranger." He smiled faintly, eyes soft beneath the brim of his hat. "Maybe I was looking for a reason to ruin it." The firelight danced between them, throwing shadows that made the old cabin feel alive. "What were you before all this?" she asked. Clint stared at the flames for a long time before answering. "A hired gun. Rode for whoever paid. Did things I ain't proud of." His voice was gravel, heavy with things left unsaid. "And you?" Lila looked at him, the corners of her eyes wet but steady. "Just a girl trying to feed a sick brother. They buried him without a stone." Clint nodded. "Then maybe we start new. You and me. Forget Dust Creek ever existed." But Lila shook her head. "You can forget what you done, Clint. But I can't forget how they looked at me. Like I was dirt." He stood, walked over, and untied the rag she'd wrapped around her wrists. "Then don't forget," he said softly. "Remember it, and let it make you stronger." Morning broke cold and bright. The storm had cleared, but danger hadn't. Clint noticed fresh hoofprints near the creek. Too many to be travelers. He loaded his rifle, eyes scanning the ridges. "They found us," he muttered. Lila's face paled. "What do we do?" Clint's tone turned steel. "We fight smart." He led her into the brush, made her crouch low. "If I don't make it," he started, but she cut him off, her voice breaking. "Don't say that." He gave her a small, rough smile. "Then don't let me." By noon, the riders came, 5 men under the sheriff's colors. The same sheriff who'd watched her beg. Clint waited till they drew near, then fired once, warning shot. Dust kicking up by their boots. "You ain't welcome here," he called out. The sheriff sneered. "You're harboring a criminal, Maddox. Turn her over." Clint's hand didn't shake. "You tied a hungry girl to a post and called it justice. You lost your right to the word." Guns drew. The canyon echoed with thunder again, not from the sky, but from revolvers spitting lead and dust. Clint moved like wind, fast and silent, each shot precise. When the smoke cleared, 2 riders lay still, and the rest fled, leaving the sheriff bleeding on the ground. Clint knelt beside him. "Tell Dust Creek she's free," he said coldly. And tell Clint Maddox don't bow to cruelty. When he turned back, Lila was crying, not from fear, but from the weight of being saved twice. She ran to him, hands trembling. You could have died, she said. He looked at her, blood on his shoulder, and whispered, worth it. She pressed a hand over his wound, holding tight. I ain't lettin' you go, she murmured. He smiled faintly. Didn't plan to. That night, under a sky of stars, Lila leaned against him by the fire. For the first time, she wasn't shaking. You think they'll ever stop huntin' us? She asked. Clint looked up, eyes on the horizon. Maybe. Or maybe we'll just keep riding till they can't see the dust.